Carriers and other operators have long been urged to enhance their offerings with value-added services, but which services do enterprises need, and are the carriers the right organisations to deliver them? To answer these questions and more, I asked a range of industry experts to find out. Which value-added services do you currently see most demand for from enterprises? And which emerging services do you see as likely to become more significant over the next 3 to 5 years?
For most businesses, it's really being able to enable the digital transformation. So, some still want to buy an MPLS connection, but many are moving into the area of collaboration or IoT or more vertical use case focused. And really the companies that will be successful is where they're able to understand their customers' requirements from the digital transformation and not just try to sell the same product to different shapes. You need to mold it and make it applicable to solve their problem.
In terms of Versa Networks, we've enabled the service provider to offer a number of services that are native to our architecture as VNFs, so virtual network functions. And that ranges from wide area networking, that's defined in software, that's WAN optimization, network security, wireless access, and cloud connectivity. They're all in demand because that is essentially a transformation of the conventional way of running a branch office network. But clearly the drive toward being able to have an automated and programmable branch office network, that's what the SD-WAN part does. Driving better cost optimization for your connectivity beyond MPLS private lines and incorporating ISP costs, which are way less.
Where are the opportunities for smaller players, and what's the outlook for startups?
I would say it's very much in not having any tie down to legacy. We now have the internet, which can be the next WAN, and by using public-private clouds, they're able to deliver SaaS or PaaS solutions for their customers related to the business problem they're trying to solve without having to invest into any heavy infrastructure, and have a completely light business model where they're completely solving their customers' need and being able to bootstrap themselves off the existing infrastructure.
Smaller players are doing quite well. If we look at the enterprise revenue of established operators, they're really struggling to maintain their revenue. If you look at the challenger players in markets and smaller niche players, they're actually managing to grow their revenue. That's partly through gaining market share, but it's partly also through offering better customer service. So I think for smaller players, having a good focus is important. So you see Gamma in the UK, for example, focused very much on SIP trunks hosted voice market. That's one area where they can specialise and add value rather than trying to compete across the board with the bigger players.
We're a startup out of Silicon Valley. We're venture capital backed. We also have strategic investors who, Verizon and Comcast, who are also partners of ours as service providers. And the real opportunity for us is to be the innovator, to be the visionary of a way of transforming a standard that has existed, in the IT world, the networking world, has stood the test of time for decades, perhaps. MPLS has been around for a long time. So the ability for us to disrupt, what is essentially a $5 or $6 billion market. It's a very fast-growing market. We can move faster than the larger companies. We have a large universe of developers, both in the United States and India. We have over 100 engineers who have networking and security expertise. So we can move faster. We can extend the vision. And be the innovation engine in a sense of the operator. And I think that's primarily why we see Versa attracting so many MSP partners and also strategic investments.
Should value-added services be adapted for specific verticals?
Very much so. I mean, at the end of the day, while we talk digital transformation, what matters is the end customer. Where are they in their digital transformation? What business problems do they have? What are they trying to solve? we need to have as deep an understanding of that as possible in order to understand what problem are we actually solving. I can't just sell something and throw it over the fence, because then they're not going to like consuming my services. Instead, we need to adapt to their requirements, and if we have a foothold in, let's say, the financial market, make sure we exploit that to the maximum and not just try to go on a tactical piecemeal by piecemeal product basis.
I think they can be in certain cases. So there's clearly the financial services sector, which has very specific requirements around compliance. But actually, for a bigger operator, many value-added services can be applied across different segments. And there's great gain to be had in having a single product which can be offered across the board.
Absolutely. For us, at first, financial services is a big vertical market for us. The retail market, which in some cases is also financial services and retail. And you think about specific problems that we help solve, one of which is the ability to segment your class of traffic. So if you're a financial services retail bank, you know, it's a great idea to be able to place the ATM network on one path, guest Wi-Fi on another, perhaps your point of sale on another, and maybe even segment by duties. You know, so that if there's an officer in the bank, you might want to have an extra layer of security or an SLA behind performance just for that particular profile in your company. So, you know, manufacturing is another one. There's a lot of distributed locations and offices that require really efficient transport and connectivity for business critical apps. So while it is a horizontal solution, those are three that we've seen that are early adopters of SD-WAN technology.
Professional services are a key enabler in supporting enterprises in the migration from legacy IT. But should service providers be offering those professional services themselves?
I think they should, but there's caveats around it. Ultimately, what matters is the end customer and their digital transformation. So if they have a preferred services provider, you should default to that, and as quickly as possible have a great relationship with them so you can work effectively together. And that means maintaining a strong ecosystem throughout. At the same time, you should either have a strong relationship with some preset service providers as part of your ecosystem, or alternatively have capabilities in-house. That goes far away from many of the operator models where they develop more generic offerings, product-based, rather than having a service workforce who knows specific topics. But fundamentally, creating a successful customer is solving their challenge in their market and not giving them a product to DIY themselves. There are parts to that, but success is delivering what the customer needs, and different people have different needs.
I think they should, yes. We spoke to a number of operators about this recently, actually, a number of service providers. Some of them have been acquiring to gain those capabilities. So you look at some of the acquisitions Orange has made recently, for example, Telstra bought Company 85 in the UK a year or two ago, really building on professional services capabilities. And we've spoken to a lot of operators who aspire to that. As you say, it's really a key enabler. And it also allows service providers to migrate their existing customers to be proactive about moving them towards new cloud, new IT services without having to have them reach the point where this contract really isn't servicing me, I have to go out to tender. If service providers can move them on bit by bit using those professional services, that's a huge asset to them, I think.
Well, I think they should, because what we're evolving to now is everything as a service, right? So their circuit renewals are a trigger for let's transform the branch and let's have everything as a service in the branch. So networking, WAN optimization, security, even threat intelligence. So if you take just threat intelligence alone, the ability to now report, inspect, observe, and report every single packet that hits every single branch and run that through a security threat intelligence analysis and correlate those events and then be able to deliver that as a consultative service, I think is a huge opportunity for someone like Verizon, who's already a major global managed security service provider.
If you could tell operators where to double their investments, where should they spend their money?
If I knew the answer to that, I would be a very rich man in a few years. But I would say it's got to be in the area of interoperability and digital transformation. And that sounds very abstracted, and that could mean anything. But what it really is investing in software virtualization, investing in bringing their acquired disparate companies and technologies together so that they can provide their end users with a seamless experience. Customers are now used to, first of all through the mobile and internet world, but also now through the enterprise world, of being able to just click and collect. If you want to deploy a VPC, 3 touches on AWS or Azure, and you can deploy that environment. You don't have to worry about the infrastructure. A lot of the network operators have a lot of infrastructure, but they don't operate like AWS or Azure or any other public cloud, where there's this completely abstracted layer which is super simple for the consumers to consume and to use in their business. And creating that experience should be where they're investing into.
I'm going to give you a very boring answer in a sense. I think they should invest in customer care and customer satisfaction, getting the basics right. So they have a solid connectivity offer. They should make sure that's right. They should make sure their customers are satisfied. We've seen really low NPS scores for service providers in Europe. 0 is not unusual. There are some players, Colt for example, who've been really pushing on that and improving things. And yes, if you cannot get the basics right, if you can't have satisfied customers, you can't possibly begin to sell value-added services. And I think there's definitely a case for investment in that area. Perhaps the other area is around acquisition to build up IT and professional services capability.
Well, they should definitely double their investment in market maker, innovator, disruptive technologies like SD-WAN. And in our case, SD-WAN plus security, plus WAN optimization, plus web connectivity, plus wireless access. Because that is really where they're going to be able to gain more profitability. In our case, all of those can be offered as discrete services, monthly recurring revenue or annual recurring revenue contracts. And as they invest in those, that gives us additional fuel to innovate further and be able to introduce additional services that they consume and deliver as VNFs.
Thank you very much. Well, it looks like value-added services market is going to be a mixed picture from now on.